All right, welcome. In this video, I'm going to take you through how to set up a assembly to drive the constraints and create motion on a mated fastener pair. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Okay, what you're going to need to do for this particular assignment is you're going to need to already have downloaded the two parts of your assembly here from McMaster Car is where I've gotten these from. You can pull from anywhere you can get a 3D step file. Then you're going to need to download that and save that to Inventor or save it as an Inventor file in your server space, and then you have access to work with these two particular fasteners as 3Ds. Now, what I'm going to do is to start this process, we'll go to File. I'm going to click on the New button, and I'm going to come down here to the Assembly. So Assembly IAM is where we're going to be working, and then hit Create. Once I have this assembly area set up, I'm going to go to Place, grab Place again, and I'm going to go find those fasteners. So I've saved these as Inventor files. They're over here, and you can see this is a 1/2 inch 13 UNC. And I saved it that way so I knew what it was. So I'm going to select that. And I'm also going to come down here, hold down Control, and grab the other one as well. That's my thumb screw. Notice they mate 1/2 inch 13 NC. Hit open and bring them into my assembly location and click. And now I can take a look and see what do we got going on here. Well, I have a fastener. This is my thumb screw. It looks like a wing nut. And now I want to constrain them so that they are set to the axes, meaning that they will not move away from an axis. And you can see that they're actually coming in a nice orientation. So when I go to an isometric view, they are at a true isometric view to the axis here. So what I want to do is constrain it so it stays that way. So to do that, I come over here to the origin, hit a little plus symbol, slide down, and you can see the different planes highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on let's go ahead and get for this particular instance, the XY plane. Left click on it, right click on it, and hit visibility. That turns on the plane. Now with that turned on, I can go ahead and then set this up. So I'm going to constrain the face of this thumb screw to that plane. So I'll grab the constrain tool, make sure I'm set here to mate. And given their orientation, I'll make sure that it's set here to mate also. Select the edge of the thumb screw here, the face of the thumb screw, turn, and then select the face of the plane. So that's set in position, and what I can do is before I hit apply, I'm going to turn, and you can see how that plane now lines up perfectly with that thumb screw. So that's good. We'll hit apply. That's in position. Now let's go ahead and just create a relationship between these two right away. Maybe that'll help jump this into position. So we're going to keep the mate, and then find threads and the center axis here, and then threads with center axis, and select it. Now, what has happened, as you can see, as I put these together, these two axes are pointing in the same direction. What I can do is I can change that solution here, selecting this. Notice these two arrows are opposed. Now that has swapped the relationship, and they are now opposed. That's how I want this to come together, because I want the thumb screw and the wing nut tabs away from each other. So I hit apply. Now I'm going to hit cancel, and then we're just going to take a look at what I've actually done here with this. So I'm set to that work plane, so I can't move these away from the work plane, but they can still slide up and down, which really is fine. It's not a huge issue at this point in time. But what I want is I really want this wing nut also to turn so that they're both up in the set, so that both wings are straight up and down, if you will. So it's not turning right now, and really it should have the ability to turn. Well, it's not turning because this is not grounded. So if I go ahead and right click on that part and ground it, then you can see now that one is actually fixed, the other actual movement freedoms can be played with. Okay, so with that set up, now I want to take and constrain this one up, all right, so that this comes up and is set in position. So again, grab the constraint tool, make sure it's set to mate, and given the orientation, we'll do the same thing. We'll go from face of thumb screw here to work plane, and we're going to want to set this up so that they come together like that, okay? And so here we have an issue. It's not wanting this to happen. So, well, don't freak out. Don't accept it, all right? We need to edit or change something to make sure this is going to work. So why is this not working is what we need to figure out. Figure out why this isn't working, okay? What we need to do, if this constraint doesn't apply, which it's not going to again, we'll go ahead and select this, jump it into position, tell it should work. It's not going to work. So we're going to kick out of here and kick out of here. And we're going to go look at this part. And I'm going to take this and actually physically turn this and say, well, why won't you go there? Well, here's one of the reasons why. If I tried to make this constraint so this went straight, obviously the two parts being thicker, it can never constrain if I keep the center axis constraint on this particular wing nut. So they'll never come together, okay? That's why it's saying that we have an issue as far as constraints go. So instead of using that make constraint, what I'm going to do is grab the constraint tool, and I'm going to grab the angle constraint. I'm going to grab a directed angle, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to select the same face again. I'm going to select this particular plane. And it does jump into position because the angle can be set. All right, so I'm not necessarily having it mate directly, and you can see it's sticking through ever so slightly here because the angle's set. So I'll go ahead and hit apply. Now, these are all set in position, and now I'm ready to go ahead and start mating them so we can get motion. All right. Okay, so going ahead and set this up. This now moves back and forth. Now it doesn't spin because it's locked up. So here's one of the first things that we need to do is we need to go in and we need to suppress some of these mates, okay? I don't want this thing to move, so I can leave this set. It's grounded, not an issue. This is what's going to spin and advance up this fastener. So as I come down here, I'm going to find that angle constraint, select it, right click, and I am going to suppress it. Now this should be able to spin, okay? So if I ever want to go back and then get this thing squared up again, you come over here, you select that angle, you right click and you unsuppress it, it will jump back into position. So we'll go over, we'll suppress it, and now it moves. Now, what we'll do next is turn off this particular XY plane. We're going to turn the visibility off on that. And now we're going to go ahead and set up a plane on this face. Now this plane is necessary for driving this constraint. So we select the plane tool, come down here, I'm going to left click, hold, and pull my mouse, okay? Then I'm going to tell it right here, don't offset, 0 is the distance, and a green check. So now that plane is directly on the face of my fastener, all right? Now I need to constrain it because it's sitting there, but it's not constrained. So I'll grab my constrain tool. I'm going to select the face of that fastener, and I'm going to select the face of this particular work plane. However, look at that arrow before you select it. Those arrows are in the same direction. So with those set up, I changed my solution, select the work plane, and it links. Heard that bink, that worked. Hit apply. Now with that set, the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and set this up so that this thing is going to be flush with the end of this part. So as we advance one full rotation, we can actually measure the distance of the lead, how far this is moving. So we'll go ahead and we're going to keep that flush constraint set, and I'm going to tell it this face of the fastener right there is going to be flush with the end of the threaded part. Beautiful. Hit apply. Hit cancel. Now we're going to get into the idea of how do we add some motion, all right, to this thing. I don't need this work plane on anymore, so I'm going to come over here in my browser and find it, right click on it, and turn the visibility off, all right? And I also just like to come back to a nice isometric view, and I also really want to get this thing, well, I can just rotate it by hand for now, that's fine. Now, what we'll do is adding motion to this happens by grabbing the constraint tool, and we're going to slide up to the motion tab at the top, and we want to add motion in the concept that as one thing turns, it's going to advance, all right? Now, one other thing you need to do before we actually add motion, all right, we need to get this axis right here to show up. And this axis is actually showing up through the part. So you got to open this part. So I'm going to go back and find this part, not that one. That's it. And here, this axis is the axis in the origin of the part. So find the part, find the origin, open those up, select the axis, right click, and then make sure that axis is visible. So turn the visibility on. Once you do this, you go back to your assembly here, that will become visible, okay? So make sure that's on because you're going to need that axis now. So we'll go ahead and grab the constraint tool, grab the motion tool, grab the motion for rotation translation, and then we want to select the face of this fastener. And as this fastener turns this way, which actually is the wrong way, because as this fastener turns, we want it to go the other direction. But we'll work on that in a second. Once that thing is turning, it's going to advance on that axis. Okay, so we'll set that up. And then what we got to do is we need to give it the information for the threading of the parts. We know the distances. So given that this is a, what's this, a 1213 UNC, or I'm sorry, 13. This is a 0.513 UNC, so 13 threads per inch. I'm going to highlight this and type in 1/13. That means it's going to be 1/13 of that for one rotation. So we're going to go ahead and hit apply, hit cancel. And now what we should be able to do is start looking at driving some of these constraints. All right, so to do this, we're going to come over here. We're going to find the fastener, slide on down, and you want to find the flush constraint that you added where the tips of these are keeping them flush. Okay, they're keeping them squared up. Right click and select drive. Once that's selected, you want to open up this additional dialog down here. And first off, it's going to start and it's going to move 10 inches. I don't need 10 inches. This part's nowhere near 10 inches. Not to mention, I only really want to move one full rotation. All right. This has to do with the speed. We'll deal with that in a second. So we really want to find out, in one full rotation, what's the lead going to be of this part? Well, to do that, we need to come over here. All right. And we need to look at this calculator. And we're just going to say 1 divided by 13 is going to give us this number. This is 0.07692, blah, blah, blah. So 0.0769 will go 0.77. All right, so 0.077 is going to be the distance that this thing is going to go ahead and move in one full rotation. So we'll go ahead and put in here 0.077. All right, that's set up. And the total number of steps down here that it's going to take to do this is going to be 13. So we'll set that up, and then when we hit play, oh, did you see that thing move? Move real fast. So we're going to play back, and it looks like it's moving a whole lot. So let's slow it down. We're going to do pause, and we'll do by 0.1. Seems to work fairly well. And then as it turns, you can see that's one full rotation. So we'll take it back, and it goes in that way. Now, one of the things you should take note of is as it's rotating forward and advancing in what we would call forward, it's spinning in the wrong direction because it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So with that all set, we're going to get back out to here, this rotation translation. We need to edit this and change its relationship. Once we've gone ahead and done that, we should be able to come back out and drive this, and now you see it goes in the right direction. All right, so it's key to see that relationship, how that works to do that. Okay, so make sure you save your assembly here. I'm going to go in and do a quick save as, and just save this. This is going to be Fastener Motion 513. I'll call this 2 because I've already done it once. And then we'll continue moving forward with the next piece of this in a different video. So hopefully helps get you moving and assembling your fasteners for motion.